Was joined us on the line. He's president of the Ghana Medical Association. Doc, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you very much for having me.
You've said it's not impossible, but looking at our state of economy, I dare say it is impractical. It will be next to impossible if there's any word beyond impossible. What's your counter-argument?
Well, let me say good evening to your listeners and, of course, your viewers. I'm sure that you are aware that health is regarded as essential services. And as essential services, we are not alone in this league. The security agencies are part of us. And then, of course, the fire service and other areas, which are even regarded also as security agencies, are also being part of the system that we are talking about. We are probably the only essential service in this country that do not retire on their salaries. So it means that we are actually being cheated. Because if you regard us as essential services, and all the areas where you see as essential, even including the judiciary, there are people at a certain level that retire on their salaries. Why is it not the same for the health worker? So it is not impossible, and I think it is doable.
Tell
this
me.
Issue.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Submit.
Yes, this issue of the car waiver, vehicle importation waiver that I mentioned, it was something that had been enjoyed in this country before. And indeed, if you read critically the manifesto of the current ruling government, the NPP, there are portions that captures the same policy that when they come to power, they will make importation of vehicles tax-free for health workers because they know how important our movement is to our work. And so the things we are asking for are something that I believe that we would be able to work with if we're able to get it.
Okay.
What is so impossible for the politicians to seek healthcare here if they improve the system? So it's realistic. And so I think that we are asking for things that are very, very much realistic in this regard.
Let's look at the practicalities of your demand. What is the doctor population in Ghana now?
The doctor population in Ghana, we are still hovering around 7,000.
So we have
we don't retire at the same time. We retire in stages. Some may be 50 today, others may be 35, others may be 20-something, others may be 50-something. So, and as we are even retiring, remember that death is also real. So it means that some would even be dying off as we retire and we go into our retirement at old age. So it's natural. So the mathematics of it is such that it is not something that can be done. And we can work it out. If we agree that, let's say, for somebody to enjoy this retirement on salary, the person should have worked in Ghana for, let's say, 25 years or 20 years. It will solve two problems. One is that people who want to retire on their salary will have to commit and work in this country continuously for 20 years. Wouldn't it stop the brain drain?
Now, this retirement, is it for all? Do you have a ranking system for doctors?
We do have a ranking system. So as you go along, you would get to a point where you would have to get to, if you don't go to the academic level, you get to the point of a chief medical officer, for example. Let's say that if you're able to reach the rank of a chief medical officer, you're able to reach the rank of a specialist or senior specialist or consultant, those three ranks. After all, within our condition of service, we have ranked a group of people we call category B. So it means that for anybody who managed to get into that category B rank, retires and have served the country for, let's say, 20 years, that person should be able to retire on his salary. There are not many.
Is it possible to mention the salary for us? I don't know if it's something that is public that you can mention to us, so we can use that for our conversation.
I can tell you that you can use it for calculation. We've done it. And remember that salaries are base salary. It doesn't come with allowances. The allowances are off it. And so it means that this salary issue that I'm talking about is not much because it's minus allowances anyway. So it's a base pay on the single spine pay policy that we talk about because that is actually your salary.
And how much is that?
And so you can check it yourself. You can go to a single spine and see where the doctors are placed. I mean, it's public knowledge. So it's not something that you can check. It's a simple, we are paid like any other public servant who is on the single spine pay policy when it comes to the base pay.
Now, the next thing, you have also said you don't want doctors to pay for importing vehicles into Ghana. Can you explain that idea as what was?
Well, this was something that was in existence. It's not new. Maybe you remember that the Kufuor government instituted this, and then health workers were importing some vehicles into the country. It's not everybody who even took advantage of it, but at least those who needed it. There was a limit to the capacity of engine capacity that you can bring in, and even the age limit of the vehicle is also stipulated. But somewhere along the line, when we went to IMF, I think under Professor Tamils or so, then it was withdrawn. But then this government campaigned on that, and they put that in their manifesto. And they were sure and they were mindful that they can take care of it, and that is why they put it there. So I think it's something that is doable. Other countries do it. There are some countries that have been paid double the salaries of doctors based on where you are. So the modalities can be worked on. And once we work on those modalities, it will be very simple and easy for them to do so. Let's even do a simple calculation. You have about 7,000 doctors in public sector working actively. Let's assume that 3,500 of them decide to import a vehicle, which it means that for the next 5 years, they cannot enjoy. Because if that is even the limit, that will mean that it is something that is doable. You are only spending that, and for this next 5 years, this doctor cannot bring in a new car, except for the one that he is brought in and seek for that. If he needs a new car, he pays for importation tax. And this, we should look at it in the greater benefit that brings to people. The young ones who are running away and going to abroad and seeking greener pastures and so forth, if they can get some of these things and they know that, look, when I stay here, I can enjoy this package. If I work for 20-something years, I can retire on my salary. I can tell you, 75% of the people who leave this country will stay.
And you are asking this to be done for all levels of doctors, including those who have just come out of medical school?
Everybody. For this is because they even need it most. They are the ones who are called in the night. They are the ones who move around most of the time. And they are the ones who you need to come at all hours, all times. If I tell you that there are still doctors who have to pick public transport, Uber, and so forth to attend to your emergencies, when you call them in the night, they are supposed to come to you and they are now waiting for Uber. And this is going on. And we are losing lives which is needless in actual fact because government gives you full allowance, but you have no car to put it in.
So
there are necessities as far as our work is concerned.
Is this a proposal or a demand?
Well, I can say it's both. It's both because it's a proposal and it's a demand. And the point is that, let me explain it to you. The point is that we asked for logistics, isn't it? We demanded that we should be given the national logistics to work with. And we believe that vehicles for us is also one of the logistics that we need. And so that is why I say it's a demand. The other aspect of it is that it's a proposal in the sense that it's something that we want to include in our conditions of service. So the government should look at that and ensure that we sign an agreement to that effect. So the two, for me, goes. If they decide they will provide it because we demanded for it without actually signing anything to it, which is also not possible because we should have modalities that guides this kind of policy. So we see it as a two-pronged issue. It is a demand. It is also a proposal that we are putting before the government.
And now that it's a demand, it means that you have a timeline you are working with. By which time do you want the government to incorporate this into your schemes?
You know what? I have asked for immediate restoration of that policy to health workers. We are waiting on government to see how they respond to it. So as far as we are concerned, we want it immediately. If tomorrow government comes out and tell us that they have given it to us, we will say hooray and we will jump and we will hold it. So we want it immediately.
I've seen a publication where it is suggested that you've said you've given government up to January, 1st January to implement this. Is that accurate?
No, if anybody publicize anything like that, that person is not into the accurate picture. We never give timelines.
Which means that you don't mind for it to go to next 5 years or 10 years?
No, I mean, that is why I said it's something we need to talk about. And we are still at the table discussing the condition of service, and something we will table at this discussion. So we don't have timelines, but I don't think we also can wait in perpetuity. No, I mean, you have to be realistic. I mean, myself, I'm realistic. I am sure the government is realistic. My members are realistic, and you too have to be realistic here. So we have not given up to January, but 5 years is not something that is on at all. We can't even talk about 5 years. It's not possible because our condition of service, when we sign it, it does not take 5 years for it to even expire. So I don't think 5 years is something that we are looking at all. No.
And so, because it sounds to me like this is just a conversation you want us to have. It's a national conversation.
No, it is not a conversation. That's what I'm saying. It's not a conversation. You know what you want to hear. You want to hear that we are giving government up to this day and that day and that day and that will do that, will do that. You don't get that from me. So what you are going to get is that we are at the table, we are discussing with government, and we'll continue that discussion, and we are hopeful that we'll get it. And that is it. And I'm sure we would get it because it's something that we feel we have enough reasons to give to government to accede to that demand. And so I am not afraid at all, and I'm not worried. But I think it's something that is going to happen. And so we don't have timelines. We are not giving timelines and giving any threats. There are no threats attached to this. We believe that the government is also reasonable and they will see the need why these things have to be provided. And that is what we work with.
Let's move forward. The country as we know it now is in dire times. Retirees, those whom you're hoping to join and be paid while you are joined, are struggling. They've gone to demonstrate in front of the Ministry of Finance because their pension funds were taxed. There are stringent measures being put in place because we are under an IMF program. We have gone begging, cap in hand, even though we had said we were going to move from aid to whatever. You've seen the situation we are in. You get a picture I'm trying to paint. Yeah. Are you sure our economy at this time should be met with this shock that you are holding at it?
So which shock was that? I mean, because we have two things that we're talking about here. Is it retirement on salary or is it the issue of the car importation waiver that we are talking about?
My question, I think it has to do with specifically the demands you're making, retiring on your salaries at this stage, asking because government is desperately looking for funds from anywhere. The port of Tema is one crucial place for revenue generation. When you're saying that about 3,000 of 3,500 people should bring vehicles in duty free, I'm just looking at the revenue laws. Can the economy withstand that at this time?
I am very sure that the economy can more than withstand that. Way beyond that. I don't think this is just a drop in the ocean as far as the economy is concerned. If you have 3,500 even doctors bringing the car over 5 years, do the math. 5 years, 3,500 doctors bringing the cars. How much money are you going to lose per year? It's peanuts.
Okay, let's look at it from
another. It's not something that would affect our economy in any way. It's not possible. It's not going to do anything to the economy.
Let's look at it from another angle. If you make this demand and it's granted, you are opening the floodgate for more people to make these demands. And it will be expanded to health workers, and health workers would now include anesthetists. It would include the nurses who are your supporters in the wards. And then journalists would say that we are also engaging in duties that are very essential services, if you like, because, for instance, we are the one giving you a platform to tell this story of yours, so we are essential. And then other professionals are going to make these demands, and then you know where I'm headed to. It is going to be a problem, isn't it?
You know what? That is the reason why in this country maybe we don't progress. Because the fact that somebody goes and negotiates for A and gets it does not mean that everybody should be given the same thing. And that is the reason why we have to make sure that we have levels. We have been in this country. Judges have retired on their salaries since time immemorial. We have prisons. We have military retired on their salaries since time immemorial. We have, police having levels retiring their salaries. Why is it that the rest of us, we are not retiring on our salaries? So if today we are demanding for vehicles importation waiver and everybody says because we are getting it, everybody should get it, then that is not fair. Then we don't even know where our priorities lie. So let's set the priorities. If at a particular point in time we feel that journalists are our priority and we are giving them something, all of us should support it. So that is how I see it. In actual fact, I don't really mind if any other group can justify why they are also supposed to be given it. I will support them. And I believe we should come to the point where instead of looking into people's soups, rather demanding that we begin the same meat, We should rather look at our strengths and see where we can also draw our strength, and then we should rather applaud people when they get something. Otherwise, there is no way we can move. So if I say that, well, people don't work during the night, they are not called in the night, so I'm not going to get up in the night and go attend to any patients, what will happen? If the police say that, okay, when there's crime somewhere in the night and you call them, they are not coming, what will happen? So I think that all of us have peculiar jobs that we do. Every job is important, every single job. And I say every single job because for me, I don't know how to lay blocks, and yet I want the hospital to be built. So it means a mason has to do it. So that person is so important. After it has happened, a cleaner has to clean. Everybody, but we still have peculiarities in our jobs. And I think we should celebrate those peculiarities rather than saying that it's a wholesale thing. Once somebody gets it, and that is why our governments are always paralyzed and they can't move on these policies. It is such that even if it is structured, one day your brother gets this. So you sit back, you look at why he got it, and then you also look if you also deserve it. Go and look for it. But if we do like this, no government to give anything to any group, because we can also do the same. We can get up tomorrow and say that if they don't let us retire on our salaries because judges are retiring on their salaries, they are not going to work. What would you say? So I think we should be realistic. We shouldn't be envious of each other. We support each other. And we should not be making demands because somebody made those demands. No. Let's look at it and see, we weigh the options and see what do we also deserve. Okay. What should we also get? And I think that is the direction we should be going instead of going into that direction that you are talking about. That is a very dangerous terrain.
Okay. In fact, just a point of information to you, and I don't know if it's related to what you have done or not, but Professor Ransford Jampo has just sent me a message, and he says UTAG, that's the University Teachers Association of Ghana, is going to make the same demands tomorrow. He said they'll be meeting the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission tomorrow on negotiations of conditions of service, and that the professorial ranks among university teachers would retire on their salaries. And I would demand it, and we won't take excuses. It's just by way of information. I don't know if
you see, that's why I told you, I don't have a problem if he justifies the reason why they have to have professors retire on their salary. Because after all, some people always retire on their salary, and I don't have a problem with that.
So you are speaking for your people. Anybody who wants to can also make their own demand.
Justify those things, but don't wait for somebody to demand it. And because you think that somebody is demanding it, you're also going to marry the authors and also demand it. And because of that, you end up all of us don't get it.
Yeah.
My dear friend is Abro.
Yeah, you know Abro.
Do you know Abro?
I know Abro. I know Bay as well.
Some of these demands are Abro Bay. Because you know that when you do it, ultimately you lose, I lose. And that is the message I'll give to everyone who wants to go into that direction.
But
we can also play the game. We can play the game very easily. If it comes to that, any labor union that demands something and we think that they are even going to get it, we also demand the same thing and it comes to naught. Is that what we want to do?
But to be fair, I'm not sure you're saying what UTAG wants to do is right.
I'm not talking specifically in relation to what UTAG is saying. You remember I said that they make their argument and it's justifiable that they retire on their salaries, I don't have a problem with that. But I'm talking in general terms that we shouldn't go into that direction of saying, all of us didn't get it. That is bad. That is bad faith. And that one, I don't think we should go in that direction at all because Ghana Medical Association can also do the same thing.
Very well.
And it may not help anyone.
I see. In fact, he said that they started their demand long before you came in. So it's just by way of information. Now,
that is not true. You see, we already have it in our conditions of service that currently we are enjoying. It was left to us for us to work on the modalities. So this thing that I'm talking to you about, we signed our conditions of service in 2019 and it is in there.
Okay.
And so the point is that effective 2019, we were supposed to be able to work where we get some doctors retire on their salaries. There was a committee that was put in place by the Minister for Health, and we have met several times to try and find the modalities. We invited Controller and Counsel General, we invited SNIT, we invited some of the organizations that retire on their salaries to look at the modalities to see how we can help doctors retire on their salaries. So it's something we have been working at for close to 4 years now. It's just that we still haven't seen the light. It has still haven't seen the light of day, and that is why we are still making those demands. So UTAC is new to this. So they shouldn't think that is their business. We already have the agreement in place. It is signed and sealed.
Okay,
the point is the modalities. So, but if we want to go into that kind of arena, There are a lot of things that we have that is not being implemented, and yet we are not making noise about.
I don't want us to split heads over this, but I'm just giving information as he's giving it to me, and he says
and I'm telling you that we have it.
He says that they started this before you even became president of GMA. But
that is not a discussion. That is before I became president of GMA. That agreement I'm talking to you about, I didn't sign it. It was my predecessor who signed it.
Now,
but it's binding.
Before you leave us, the point I made to you about your demand being tied to January, my production team has just prompted me that you actually said it in your speech, and I think it's fair to just play it so that perhaps there's a change of mind on that. That would be helpful.
Well, I'm sure if you can help me with that, I'll be very happy.
If you kindly indulge me, let's listen to your voice.
No problem.
Okay.
The laborer also deserves his wages, and our patience cannot be stretched in perpetuity. Again, let me remind our employer, any delays will not be rewarded, since we will demand full implementation of any agreed terms to be effective January 2024.
There you have it, sir.
So you realize that if you listen to me, this was in relation to another topic that I raised, and that is to do with the negotiations for conditions of service that we are currently doing now. So if your producers will be fair, they should go back. The first tape you played was on the theme of the conference. After that, I spoke about the negotiations for conditions of service that is ongoing, which we have been at it since, I think, February or so, and we are still not finished. And I'm saying that those delays, we cannot continue with those delays, and that if the government doesn't ensure that we finish and they think that they can delay and be rewarded for it, it won't happen, because once we finish, we would ask that implementation of the agreed conditions of service is effective January 2024. They are two separate issues.
Fair enough.
So if you cut and you paste, that is not fair.
That's fine. Thank you for putting it in context. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, Doc.
Thank you very much for having me.